Nate Hornung here, better known as Shaggy_Bets with betting news. And I'm very, very, very excited for football season. College football is right around the corner. So let's preview our final Power 4 conference in the college football landscape. I'm talking about the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, that now stretches all the way from the Atlantic Coast all the way to include a couple of teams in California and one team down in Fort Worth, Texas. Regardless, it is still the ACC, even with the conference extensions. Let's take a look at the history of this conference, because one team specifically has kind of had a stranglehold on the entire league over the past decade or so. I'm talking about Dabo Swinney and those pesky Clemson Tigers. Clemson has been the ACC conference champion 8 of the past 10 seasons, including 2 of the past 3 as well. Only Florida State in 2023 and the Pittsburgh Panthers in 2021 have topped the conference in the last decade. Florida State actually won it 3 straight years, ending in 2014 as well. But the last winner, not named Florida State or Clemson, excluding those 2021 Pittsburgh Panthers, was way back in 2010 when the Virginia Tech Hokies took down the Seminoles in the ACC Conference Championship. Now, this season, the odds makers kind of think it is still Clemson's conference to lose. Let's start there, looking at the betting odds, but we're going to take a look at the betting odds to win the entire national championship. So let's take a look at the ACC schools' odds to win the college football playoff, to win this year's college national championship. And we see the Clemson Tigers fairly high up there on the list, sitting at plus 850, led by Heisman hopeful Cade Klubnik. Next up, we have the Miami Hurricanes, who are new, revamped, with Carson Beck playing quarterback at 28-1. And then a little bit further down the list, we have the Louisville Cardinals at plus 8,000 and the SMU Mustangs at 100-1, plus 10,000 to win this year's national championship. But, of course, we have a 12-team playoff, so we have to look at the odds to simply make that 12-team playoff. And Clemson seems to be a shoe-in. Based off the odds makers, they are minus 200 right now on Bet Online just to make the college football championship. They don't need to win the ACC. They don't need to win the national championship. They just need to be in that field of 12. You got to bet minus 200 if you want to wager on that. Looking at some other teams that might have a longer shot to make the college football playoff, we got the Miami Hurricanes priced at plus 175, Louisville Cardinals at plus 300, and the SMU Mustangs at plus 325. Getting even further down the list for some bigger long shots, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are priced at plus 650, and then the Florida State Seminoles are plus 1,200 just to make the college football playoff. Now, if you're watching this, you may have watched my Big 12 preview as well. If you haven't, be sure to check that out on the Betting News YouTube channel. But much like the Big 12, I believe the ACC is going to be a one-bid league. More than likely, only the conference champion is going to get in the college football playoff, because you know we have to give a group of 5 conference champion in the field of 12. The Big 12 and the ACC both get one conference champion, while the SEC and the Big 10 are probably going to fight for those remaining 9 spots in the college football playoffs. So in my eyes, the ACC is simply a one-bid conference, which is why if you like any of these teams, any team listed to simply make the 12-team college football playoff, please just bet them to win the ACC, because you will get much better odds, and more than likely that is what it's going to take to get to the college football playoff, is to win the ACC championship. So looking at those odds, again, all eyes are on those Clemson Tigers, priced at even money right now to win the conference championship. But looking down the list, Miami at plus 375, Louisville at plus 850, or even SMU at 9-1, I think might be worth some fun money, because the value seems to be gone with Clemson, although they are more than likely going to be a shoo-in to win that ACC. Looking further down the list, we got the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at 9-1, Florida State, the Seminoles at 25-1, and even the Duke Blue Devils priced at 28-1. Now, there might be some excitement surrounding the North Carolina Tar Heels and new head coach Bill Belichick, but you still got to pay 33-1 to get them to win the ACC, which, according to the odds makers, is just not very likely. So let's get into some of my bets for the ACC for this conference, starting with breaking down some of the teams. Now, I have done a top 10, maybe even a top 12 to 16 for the other Power 4 conferences. Again, if you haven't watched those previews, go check them out on our Betting News YouTube channel. But with the ACC, there's not a lot to talk about, to be honest with you. I really think there's only 4 or 5 teams worth talking about, but we'll mention 6 in this preview here to kind of give you guys a better grasp of the landscape that is the ACC. So let's start with who I project to be the number 6 finisher in the ACC. We're taking the Duke Blue Devils, led by Tulane transfer Darian Mensah. He's set to lead this offense after coming from the Green Wave last season, and he really should be an immediate upgrade for this team. They returned Jacques Moore and most of their offensive line, but they do have some new skill players to get used to the playbook and kind of gel with the offense again, along with Mensah, who is learning a brand new system. Defensively, they do return some very, very good players, including cornerback Chandler Rivers, who could be one of the best defensive backs in the country this season. However, scheduling-wise, Duke, they've got to go to Tulane and face Mensah's former team in Week 3, along with hosting Illinois the week prior in some non-conference contests. So, lucky for Duke, the rest of the ACC isn't going to be very good. But if I'm a Blue Devils fan, I am just waiting for basketball season because that's where Duke is going to have much of their success, especially in the ACC. Next up, at number 5 in the Atlantic Coast Conference, I've got the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Haynes King returns with Jamal Haynes as their running back as well, one of the best running back, quarterback rushing duos in the country. Haynes King, he ran for he threw for 2,100 yards last season, running for 580 as well, totaling 25 touchdowns. Now, the Yellow Jackets offense, they only replaced their right tackle and 1 wideout, but they are going to be a very, very dangerous team on the ground. Really could chew up some clock offensively and tire out the opponent's defense, keeping their opponent's offense off of the field. On the defensive side of the ball, Georgia Tech returns 7 of 11 starters, but 3 of those guys are seniors filling in the non-returner roles. So they've got plenty of veteran experience. Scheduling-wise, they will have to go to Boulder and face the Colorado Buffaloes in a non-conference game, and in the year hosting the Georgia Bulldogs, which is always a tough game. But you will get to host Clemson as well as avoid 3 of the other teams listed ahead of them. Georgia Tech, they get to avoid games against Louisville, SMU, and Miami, giving Clemson and Duke probably their toughest battles on the gridiron this season. So Georgia Tech could be sneaky in my eyes. Next up, at number 4, we have the Louisville Cardinal, who bringing in transfer QB Miller Moss comes to lead the offense after Tyler shows the partner. The Cardinals do replace both outside offensive linemen, but they bring in receiver Dakari Collins from North Carolina State. He caught 24 passes for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. Miller Moss, like I said, set to go at quarterback, and running back sophomore Isaac Brown is set for another great season at over 1,100 rushing yards as a freshman last year. They face 3 very beatable opponents in non-conference play, but they will have to go to Miami and SMU while hosting Clemson on a short week later in the year. So if they can pull off some offense, Louisville could be towards the top of the ACC, but the conference championship might be a little out of reach for me. Next up, we have the Miami Hurricanes, who I think will finish 3rd. Carson Beck is set to be Miami's savior, but I don't have much faith in him. I don't have much faith in Mario Cristobal either. They brought in a couple of pass catchers who had good seasons for Liberty and LSU last year, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. The defensive unit turns over plenty of starters, 5 new transfer starters, including an entirely new secondary. Miami will get to avoid Clemson, but they're going to be tested all over the place. Otherwise, they open up hosting Notre Dame. They've got to host Florida in week 1, and then during conference play, you've got to go to Florida State and SMU while hosting Louisville when the Cardinals come to town. So 9.5 for Miami's win total. I have no business betting that, no desire to bet on a Mario Cristobal-led team for double-digit wins. So Miami, I think you're going to finish 3rd in the ACC behind 2 teams that are more established than you. Starting with this one at number 2, I have the SMU Mustangs sneaking into the ACC championship. They were the runner-ups last season, sneaking in their first year in the conference, eventually losing to Clemson in that conference championship. But Kevin Jennings has proven to be the guy. He's got a veteran receiving core that is ready to go and make some waves in this weaker conference. They return 8 of 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball as well, with 7 seniors leading that unit. So I am counting on them to beat Baylor in week 2 when they host them, but they will have to also go across town to take on TCU in week 4, facing a couple of Big 12 foes in non-conference games. But I do think SMU can pull out 2 wins, especially against Baylor for us. So SMU, I think, gets back to the ACC championship, but unfortunately, I think they will get stopped by the head and shoulders top team in the ACC. I'm talking about the Clemson Tigers. Quarterback Cade Klubnik, he's number 2 on the Heisman odds board, and rightfully so. He threw for over 3,600 yards last year, an incredible 36-6 touchdown interception ratio. He did a great job of taking care of the football, added 463 yards on the ground as well, and 7 rushing touchdowns. Defensively, though, this is where I really like Clemson. They return every single starter except for one. They bring in a new edge. Will Helt had 57 total tackles for Purdue last season. He was number 2 on the team in sacks with 5 as well. The Tigers return all 11 starters on offense as well, aside from their running back, who will be turned over to Gideon Davidson, true freshman, but surrounded by Klubnik and some other playmakers, the Tigers offense will elevate him to the next level. Now, Clemson will headline week 1. They face LSU, and they end the year against South Carolina, 2 very tough SEC opponents, but you get to avoid Miami and you get to host SMU. So going to Georgia Tech is really Clemson's toughest road conference game, in this league this year. So I think Clemson will be on top of the ACC and will rightfully top this league once again. No official bets for me in this conference, but I do think Clemson will win the ACC. I'm not going to pay even money for it, but I will look to back them throughout this football season. So I appreciate you guys stopping by, listening to me yap about the ACC. If you have not already, check out the rest of our Power 4 matchups at the Betting News YouTube channel. Follow me on X at Shaggy_bets for all of your sports betting needs, and check out everything we have to offer at bettingnews.com. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.